Well, hi guys, it's that time. It's our Bible teaching snippet of the day. Well, today I want to pick up and do part 2 of my little series that I'm doing, and this is on a sermon that was preached by Reverend William Metcalf on June the 8th of 1840, and it's called The Bible Testimony on Abstinence from the Flesh of Animals as Food, an address to the Bible Christian Church, okay? And that's what they were called, the Bible Christian Church. I laid you a foundation yesterday about him. I do want to say this. I'm going to read some sections out of this, and then I'm going to roll over and talk to you about Genesis chapter 9, okay? It says, Reverend Metcalf was 30 years old when 41 people set sail from Liverpool to Philadelphia, 22 adults and 19 children in 1817. Now, the address or the sermon that he delivers to his church is the anniversary. It's their church anniversary, and I'm going to read a little of this. It says, 23 years ago, a few of us landed at this city, strangers in a strange country, far from those scenes and associations that had been so dear to us from childhood, and widely separated from our relatives and former friends. And this was in 1817. Now I'm going to set in and read you a little bit more. Here we go. It has been customary with us in commemorating these anniversaries of our church to address you on some one or more of these peculiar doctrines which we entertain as Bible Christians, and by which we are distinguished from other denominations. Did you know when he starts talking about peculiar doctrines and that they're distinguished from other denominations, he was proud of that. He wasn't trying to be like other churches. He wasn't trying to be accepted by other and blend in. He wanted people to know that he had found a deeper truth that we should be living by. And, you know, the Bible does say that we will be a peculiar people. Do you know how peculiar it is even to tell another Christian that you don't believe in killing and eating animals and that you live on a plant-based diet? That's as peculiar as you can ever get. Just trust me. I learned it the hard way. Let me keep reading. I want to tell you about this. I'm going to skip on over and read something else I've got highlighted. We have long discontinued the very fashionable habit of feeding on the flesh of butchered animals, and have confined ourselves wholly to vegetable productions. We have long resisted the allurements of intoxicating beverages, and have been contented to satisfy our thirst from the limpid stream. The system of temperance, which we thus religiously practice, furnishes us with strength and activity sufficient to support the most laborious occupations, secures one of the all-important blessings of life, the possession of health, and qualifies us for the enjoyment of a more perfect mode of being and intellectual delights than ever befalls to the participation of the wine-bibber or the glutton. So they did not believe in taking on a lot of alcoholic beverages, strong drinks, and getting drunk. They did not believe in eating any animal flesh. Now, the next thing that I want to do, because he starts his sermon and he lays out that God tells us in Genesis chapter 1 what he desired for mankind's diet to be, according to Genesis chapter 1, verse 29. But you've heard my teachings before, it's not just in Genesis 1:29, it's in Genesis chapter 2, 2 different times in that chapter, and then in chapter 3, even after the fall, or what I call the rebellion of Adam and Eve, of mankind, God still says you're going to eat from the dirt. He doesn't say, okay, now that you've messed everything up, go out and kill animals and eat them. He says it's going to be harder for the earth to produce, and you're going to sweat from your brow, but you're still going to eat the plants. Okay, so let me pick up and read a little more I got highlighted. It appears indeed to be an incontrovertible fact that till after the deluge, and that's the flood, or for a period of over 1,600 years, mankind were sustained wholly by vegetable food. It is also clear from the nature of the law as recorded in the text before us, that man was originally intended to live upon vegetables only. And then as he keeps going, he says to kill animals and to eat their flesh was unlawful and seemed as something bestial. And the word bestial means primitive, uncivilized, and beast-like. So let me keep going. I got some more I highlighted. So the next thing that I want to talk to you about is Genesis chapter 9, verse 3. This is the worst enemy to trying to talk to someone about God never told us to eat animals, and it was never His will to create a living being who can feel pain and emotion for us to slaughter them, chop them up, put them on a plate, and call it food. People they read this in the English translation. It's like, see, right here, God said that we can eat animals. And so he covers this. And something he taught in this sermon really caught me. And guys, I did not believe it. I'm just going to tell you, I didn't believe what he said. So I set off in about a 2-hour study that I'm trying to just give to you in 15 to 30 minutes. But I did not believe this when I first read it. And I had to stop, slow down, and start researching, because I do that. But I'm going to read to you what he's talking about in Genesis chapter 9, verse 3. If we were called on to give a translation of what is rendered every moving thing, we would rather say every creeper. But there is a great variety in the kinds of creepers. There are vegetable creepers as well as animal creepers. The vine is a notable plant of the creeping kind. Okay. Animal creepers, we have already seen, were expressly forbidden as articles of food. The creeper of which Noah was by this law allowed to eat, in Genesis chapter 9, verse 3, what God was allowing Noah to now eat, in our apprehension, is the vine or grapes of every kind in common for food, even as they did the green herbs. Okay, so what he's saying here is that the creeper that God was talking about that Noah and his sons could now add to the food menu was the vines and stuff that creeped and crawled on the ground. Okay, the creeping things. Yes, that's what the original Hebrew and the original Greek both say. Let me go ahead and stop and read this to you real quick. I'm going to just read you a couple of things, okay? I read this to you back when I did a teaching on Genesis chapter 9, verse 3. This is the New King James Version of the Bible. It says, every moving thing that lives shall be food for you. Okay. I have given you all things, even as the green herbs. Now, every moving thing that lives shall be food for you. And I said this before. If we really took that literally, you do know that would include babies that are learning to walk, that they crawl, little humans crawl around on their fours, creeping and crawling on the ground. That would include little babies. Okay. God did not tell us to eat every moving thing that lives as food. Okay. That would include any human being, because human beings are moving things that live. Here's another thing. We don't even eat every living, moving animal. We simply don't. Okay. So that right there should be a clue for any thinking person that we must be thinking and reading something wrong. The next thing I want to do, though, is talk to you about, I'm going to just go back and read the rest of what he said here. So he's saying that what God did was allow them to eat the grapes, things that grew off of the vines. Okay, so here we go. Let me pick up here. In corroboration of this view of the subject, and as if designed to prevent any misapprehension as to the nature of the creeper meant in this text, it is expressly written in the very same chapter that Noah planted a vineyard and he drank of the wine, that he was satisfied. So, and immediately when he said that, I opened my Bible up and I looked, and sure enough, right there in chapter 9, it talks about right after God says, and you can now have the creeping things. Noah plants a vineyard. He plants a vine that creeps and crawls on the ground. And then he produces the grapes, okay, and makes wine, and he was satisfied with the wine, which I thought was very, very interesting. So for the rest of my time today, I think what I want to do, because I did spend 2 hours researching this. Now, in our, I just read to you the New King James Version. The word moving thing, okay, I want to talk to you about moving thing real quick. Here it is. I printed it off, okay, and it says here in the King James, every moving thing that liveth shall be meat for you, even as the green herb I have given you all things. Let me stop and say this. When it says shall be meat, M-E-A-T, that word does not mean flesh, okay? That word meat means simply food or nutrition. It doesn't mean meat in a skillet, okay? It means food or nutrition. But I looked up in the Hebrew, moving thing is remes, R-E-M-E-S, remes, and it's in the Strong's Hebrew, it's 7431, and it is creeping or moving thing. Creeping things, moving things, creeping organisms. Okay, so you see right there, that means something that creeps and crawls on the ground, but it doesn't necessarily mean an animal. Okay, that's what you got to take away with right here. And I'll show it to you one more time so you can see that it says creeping organisms. So then I looked it up in the Greek Septuagint, right, in the Greek. Now the Greek number for this word is 2062, and it's herpeton right here. I'll show you that as well, okay? Now, what this means is to creep or to crawl. And it says in biblical Greek, opposed to quadrupeds, animals that have 4 legs. Sorry about that, I'm tongue-tied today. So in the biblical Greek, it is opposite of an animal with 4 legs. I'll put it in my English for you. And it's opposite of birds. So a creeping, crawling thing doesn't mean an animal with 4 legs or birds. Now, and this is important because if in the Greek it means to crawl or to creep, and it means a creeping thing, and it means a reptile, now we understand why the Greek Septuagint specifically says that they can eat the creeping, crawling things, the reptiles. Let me find that for you. I want to read this to you. This is my Greek Septuagint right here. You see that? And I'm going to read it to you. And it says, every reptile. See, that word reptile right there in the Greek Septuagint means a creeping thing. Every creeping thing which is living shall be food for you. So every reptile will be food for you. That did not make any sense either, that God would pick one animal for man to eat. Now I understand completely what God was trying to say. He was saying that every creeping thing, plants, which is living, will be food. I have given them all things to you, just as I did the green herbs. But flesh with blood of life you shall not eat. So that right there makes good sense to me now. I want to read it in one more translation. And this is the Exegesis Companion Bible, okay? And it says, every living creeper. Boy, the people that translated this hit it perfectly. Every living creeper is for you, even as the green herb I give you all. Only flesh with the soul, which is the blood, do not eat. And surely I will require the blood of your souls at the hand of every live being I will require. So right here, this is the clearest version of what is actually being said in the Greek as well as in the Hebrew, what God was saying. Every living, creeping plant will be for you, even as the green herb I give you all. Only flesh with the soul, which is the blood, do not eat. Guys, I'm going to stop right here. Tomorrow I'm going to pick up and do part 2 of this because I want to show you a little bit more about Genesis chapter 9, verse 3. And then I'm going to roll right into one more thing that I want to show you that he brought out in this little booklet. I'm going to call it a day. I'm going to go out and work in my flower bed, actually. So I'm signing off. And before I go, I want to tell you that I love you, and I hope that you're growing in your understanding of what God's true will really is for us as humans, as well as His beloved creatures, all living creatures, which is the animals as well. I love you, and I'll see you here tomorrow, okay? Bye-bye.